held onto my school books with my foreheads as I trotted into the ice cream shop, seeing my purple face in the glass door's reflection. I wish there was an easier way to lug around my precious books. "I hear your sister's pregnant, Clover," said the filly with the microphone cue mark to the shy girl with a clover cue mark. "Middlelark? Yeah, though I don't know about becoming an aunt already." "What do you say with Teddy, sweetheart? He's just bad news. His cousin's a better pick," said the green pony with a notebook cue mark to the white mare with hearts on her flank. "Teddy doesn't let anyone see it, but he's generous and hard-working when he sees his pranks went too far. He's just too caught up in his tough guy image." I looked out the window at the street I had just come from. Ponies were pulling carriages for other ponies on dates. I saw a town sign. Ponyville. Just how many Ponyvilles are there, I thought, then shook my head, wondering what I meant by that. I looked back at the teenage fillies and gasped. One mare, the beige one with the patch key mark right there, was eating a hamburger. Cannibal! Cannibal! Wait, why was I making a big deal out of it? It's not like burgers we know with pony meat like in some horror movies. The mare was using her hooves to grip the burger. Was it a magic trick or something? And picked up a napkin with one hoof, wiping her face before using the other to down a milkshake. Meanwhile, the yellow filly with the candy cane mark got up on her rear legs and began to trot over to her friend, keeping perfect balance, before sitting down next to her rump side down and helping herself to her friend's fries. "Hey! Sorry, I didn't think you wanted them. Ask next time." It was a lot like Lyra, but not like Lyra. These teenagers did it so naturally, like they had been taught this was the proper way to sit and walk their whole lives. Wait, Lyra? What was I talking about? I'm in high school myself. I shouldn't be judging them like this, I thought, shaking my head. Did I know these fillies? Yes, of course I did. I must have, right? The girls with the candy and heart cue marks looked familiar. The girls with four-leaf clover and microphone cue marks felt familiar. I wasn't sure what to make of the other three. Why did I come in here? Well, nothing wrong with meeting new friends. Maybe a city break wouldn't kill me if my head is this jumbled. I trotted over and sat down at one of the spin seats at the counter. "Hi, I'm Starlight. Welcome to the Rainbow Ice Cream Shop. What would you like?" said the pink filly with the star cue mark. Or maybe just a Coca-Cola, medium size. "That'll be 2 jingles." I blinked. Jingles? Wasn't that the currency used before bits? On second thought, I'm a little short on jingles right now. "Oh, it's okay. Have a freebie. It's on the house." She hoofed me the soda, literally, with just one hoof. Was it magnets or something? "You okay?" I'm fine. Not wanting to embarrass myself, I just drank through the straw. "So what's your name?" "Twilight. Twilight Sparkle." "Nice to meet you, Twilight Sparkle. You've got a lot of books." I blushed a little. "Yeah, I'm kind of a bookworm. Some ponies call me a teacher's pet." Starlight actually smiled widely. "Really? I actually want to be a teacher when I grow up." I couldn't help smiling. "That's a great dream." "Thanks. I've always really looked up to our teacher." "Say, what's the point of life to you? Is it what you experience while here, what you leave behind, or where are you going after?" "Huh? Well, what I leave behind." "Good answer. But is it your answer?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, you ought to chat with my friends before you go. By the way, it's great knowing you pleased your teacher, but there's a difference between aspiring to be as good as her and thinking your judgment equals hers." I can understand that. The yellow pony had left the beige pony for the moment to go to the little filly's room. I chose to start with the remainder. I sat down next to her and yelped and shot up. "What the toy buzzer on the seat?" I glared at the beige filly, who stifled a giggle. "Sorry, wasn't meant for you. I'm Pat, class clown, adventurer, and best friends with the princess. So, how about you?" "Twilight Sparkle. I'm a student. I love to learn. And to make friends." "Well, you came to the right place. Ponies are more concerned with gender lines than social circles around here." "I'm glad. Some ponies used to bully me for being a teacher's pet." "Well, no need to be scared of that. We're a real accepting bunch. Just ask Bonbon." She then said under her breath, "I'd be more afraid of mice myself." "We're all scared of something," I said. She looked me in the eye. "But what scares you the most? Not being remembered after everyone who knew you was gone? Being helpless? Or losing those dear to you?" "Losing those dear to me." "Sure, I guess that's true. But is it true for you?" "Why wouldn't it be?" "Just asking." "Excuse me." I was tapped on the shoulder. It was the green pony with the pink notebook cue mark. "Hi, I'm Bright Eyes." "Glad to meet you, Red Eyes. I'm Twilight." "Likewise. You said you'd like to learn? There's a forest near here where a bird called the green-winged songbird lives." "Wow, really? I think I've heard about them. They're really rare." "Yeah, they are. That's why I'm trying to let more ponies know about them. It's all our responsibility to protect the environment, right? Hey, you said you're a student too? You look about my age. Can you help me with a small test question?" "I guess I can. No harm in it." "Alright. What would you consider to be the single defining factor that separates God from mortals? Power, mortality, or understanding?" "None of the above, or at least not as a single defining factor. Power alone makes you just a ruler, a creator, or a destroyer. Mortality alone, well, if old trees are anything to go by, it's just staying in one place forever. Understanding alone, best case scenario, you'd be a living encyclopedia, whom those with supposed power are always calling upon for reference." Red Eyes nodded happily. "What a well-thought-out response. But do you know what the objective answer is?" No, I can't say I do." Now I'm curious. Please tell me, what is the objective answer? Sorry, it's my question too. Thanks for the help on my homework. Twilight, you said your name was? I think you should talk to Melody next, otherwise she might get bored and leave. She's the one with the microphone cutie mark. I got up and trotted over to Melody. Hey, your name is Twilight Sparkle? Yes. But what about ponies who know you by different names? Ponies who know you as the smartest filly in school, or some pony you meet in a chat room under an alias. Do you act differently around these ponies than you do around those who know you as Twilight Sparkle? So which Twilight Sparkle is the real you? Is it the one that exists in the minds of others? The Twilight you think you are? Or is it the Twilight that stares back at you in the mirror? It's like Schrodinger's cat. The true self can't be observed. Not only are outside views biased, your view of yourself is biased by your own limited perspective. The true self is there, but we can't grasp it with our own eyes. That's quite the answer. But is it what you've been taught, or what you've been told? I was lost for words. Was it something I'd learned, or simply told to repeat? I knew it, but did I understand it? I looked around. That was 4. Why does Starlight want me to answer these questions? Was this a secret club scouting? Thanks for the answer, Melody said, before I could properly respond. My band is having a charity concert later. Would you like to come? Concert? Yeah, I'm a singer and electric guitar player. Our band's called the Rockin' Beats. You should totally come. The proceeds are, going to a good cause. That new nature preserve. Yeah, maybe I will. I got up and began trotting towards the lavender filly. That was when the mare with the candy humor came out of the bathroom and accidentally bumped into me. Ow! Sorry. I'm okay. Is your name Bonbon? Yes, it is. Have we met? I'm not sure. I'm Twilight Sparkle. Your friends have all been asking me questions. Oh, really? I guess I should too. Okay, give me a second here. Okay, I got one. What you want and what makes you happy. What you're supposed to do and what you need to do. The smart thing to do and the right thing to do. Where's the dividing line when these things stop being the same thing? That was good, right? I'd have to be in that situation to know for sure. Something like that is too liquid and too important to tie down with just one response. It should be handled on a case-by-case basis. Bonbon thought. You've got a real point there. But what happens when there's no time for a case-by-case basis? A situation where hesitation costs you, but not looking before you leap could cost others more. I'll need to think about that one. Okay, thanks for the chat. Nice to meet you, Twilight. Yeah. Bonbon, Patch said to ask you about how ponies around here are accepting of one another. Oh, yeah, they are. I thought everyone was going to laugh at me for wanting to be a model. I even came in the wrong moment of the dance and thought they were. Can't believe I actually ran away. It turned out they were just laughing at Patch's jokes. Well, see you around. Hey, Starlight, whip me up a sundae. Just have your mom take it out of my next shift's pay. I stood there and saw the purple pony in the corner with the clover cutie mark. Now she was sitting by herself, looking down. Why wasn't she with her friends? I started trotting over to her, but felt a tug on my tail. I turned my head to see the white and pink filly. Excuse me, could you please answer my question next, please? She asked in a voice just above a polite whisper. All right. Thank you very much. She took in a deep breath. If you saw a blind pony walking over a cliff who thought she was walking over a bridge, you'd stop her, right? If she fought you because she thought you were lying and tried to rob her, you'd take the beating and still stop her, right? Also, if foals were stuffing their faces with cookies just before dinner, you'd stop them, wouldn't you? I nodded. That was easy. But what happens when it's not so simple, but you still have power and are trusted to do the right thing? Imagine two sides battling each other, both for reasons that are good and unselfish. Both sides are doomed to suffer losses, but they fight because they are unable to work out their current problems peacefully, which might lead to worse troubles down the road. There is a high likelihood that the war being allowed to play out might prevent worse problems later, problems that nonviolence would only further erode, culturally and sociologically. But do the mothers and families of the fallen soldiers care about hypothetical problems in the distant future, or do they just cry for their sons who will never come home again? If you could do something but did nothing, does that make you, too, responsible for whichever ponies suffer? I shuddered, feeling small, limited, and trapped. The worst part was, this pony wasn't trying to lord any moral superiority over me. Rather, her tongue was pleading, beseeching. She wanted an answer. Gears in my mind screeched. Maybe that kind of power shouldn't exist. She slowly shook her head. But it does exist. Nothing can be accomplished without power of some sort. And isn't discarding power still a choice in how you use it? I answered your question as best I could. Can I please speak to that purple pony in the corner now? All right. I'm sorry. She nuzzled me on the cheek. It was nice to meet you. Oh, and if any pony tells you Teddy's a bad pony, don't listen. He's a sweet guy when you get to know him. It's just that most ponies don't give him a chance. I nodded and trotted past her, sitting down next to Clover. She sat at a round table in an alcove with cushioned seats. Her front hooves were on the table as she looked down. Excuse me? I tried to ask politely. She looked up at me, surprised. Wait just a minute, what makes a hero? To yourself, sacrifice and perseverance. To others, inspiration and ideals. Oh, I'm sorry, that one was too simple. She took out some cue cards from somewhere, but spilled them clumsily on the table. Here, let me help you with— No, you're not supposed to see! Clover tried to cover up the questions with her hooves, but I read them all the same. To Fluttershy, what is the difference between innocence and ignorance? To Rarity, if life is unfair to everyone, doesn't that make life fair? To Pinkie Pie, what is important enough to go to war over? To Rainbow Dash, are you the kind of friend that you would want to have as a friend? To Applejack the Fifth, why are you you? The more I tried to remember the questions, though, the less I could, like trying to put a key in a lock that didn't fit. Twilight Sparkle, go on. What? Just leave. It's not important. What do you mean it's not important? No matter what I do, it's never good enough, so just go. It's going to be a flop no matter what I ask. I can never match my friends' questions. Nothing I ask is going to make a difference to you, so just go. No, I said. If you all want to ask me something important, then you get to ask too. Don't sell yourself short unless you try. I did, and it didn't work out. Then try again. Failing just once is no reason to give up. Then when do you give up? What? I blinked. That's my question to you. When do you give up? When you're trying harder and harder and things don't change, when do you give up? When does it become about you not wanting to fail at something and not actually getting the job done because it's worth doing? I nearly fell out of my seat. When do you give up? I whispered. I closed my eyes, thought for a moment, and opened them. When the effort you're putting in would be better served elsewhere. But much more importantly, and overriding that, when it begins to hurt those around you. It's the same when you hurt others by simply giving up. She hugged me. I felt strange as we touched. I slowly hugged her back. Thank you, Twilight. You're welcome. I envy you, Clover whispered. You've done so many amazing things. You got friends who would see you through saving the world. You've come so far and done so much. Well, all I can do is dance. I have 4 left hooves, I said kindly. I wish I could dance. Would you give up everything you've done for it? Nope, because it's part of what's made me me, just like I think your dancing is part of you. Truth be told, I envy you, all of you. I turned and looked at the 6 other mares who were looking back at me calmly, mouths turned up in friendliness and amusement. You all got to be friends without having to save the world in the process. Grow up, fall in love, have foals, something like that. I missed that chance. You got to live your lives more than I have. I love the magic and the spells and the dragons, but for the friends and experiences it's gotten me, not for its own sake. Your lives might not be as dangerous as mine, but that doesn't make them any less worth living. Silence for a few moments, and Bonbon began clapping. The others looked at her and joined in. Well, you're about done here, Starlet said, sounding satisfied yet regretful before she brightened up. But I hope you're willing to come back sometimes. I'll always be happy to have you. Thank you. I looked at the front door. Nothing but Ponyville beyond it, right? Goodbye, I said to them, and pushed the doors open. And maybe I will. It was a beautiful watercolor day. As Twilight Sparkle walked, she stopped and stood outside the estate. The house was beautiful, truly beautiful. She looked back and found she was wearing a tailbow. When had that gotten there? And why wouldn't she have one? Bows were perfectly normal. Every pony wore them. Feeling curious, Twilight Sparkle pushed inside the unlocked front gates to find a small herd of mares. All of them had tailbows just like her, and a baby dragon looking at her on the squeaky gate. Excuse me? I think I was trying to find my way to Dream Castle, but I've gotten lost. Well, you were definitely supposed to show up at Dream Castle, Old White Pegasus said. You have a very important date there, right? A date? With who? Twilight replied, bending to stiff herself. She wasn't wearing perfume. Don't worry about it, said the gem-eyed pony. My magic stays on intuition. It's all in the stars, and that's why I'm called Galaxy. The stars were also the ones who gave me my eyes. They're very beautiful, Galaxy. Thank you. You being here is not quite logical, said a blue Pegasus with whistles on her flanks. Why not? Twilight Sparkle tilted her head. What I think my friend is saying is that you learned what you were supposed to learn at Dream Castle already, so visiting us is redundant, a pale pink unicorn said. Twilight found her strangely familiar. She couldn't help but think she knew her. Redundant? Twilight repeated. It's nothing to worry about, spoke a girl's voice behind her. You just stopped here while going somewhere else is all. Twilight turned to see a human? But humans were fairy tales. She had blonde hair tied back with a red ribbon. Her clothes reminded her of some pony else. Something to do with apples. You're a human. Twilight's head felt like it was all twirling about. Yeah, called the White Pegasus. What's wrong? You've never seen one before? Judging by her reaction, I presume no, said the Blue Pegasus. Twilight shook her head slowly, trying to think this through. Yeah, never. Huh, well this is your first time. I hope it's a good one. The human walked over to her. Twilight didn't feel any reason to be afraid of this stranger. She felt somewhat familiar. Why was that? We had a question or two we wanted to ask you. But you already know the answers, said the pink, blue-maned Pegasus, looking a little upset she wouldn't get to ask it. Yeah, good job, said an orange pony with a yellow mane. Twilight blinked, cocking her head. Something just seemed familiar about her. So many oddly familiar strangers. Have we met? Maybe. I'm Applejack. Does that ring a bell? Kind of. Twilight's mind stopped trying to process new information. So, what was the question? The pink Pegasus smirked. When does justice become revenge? Twilight blinked. She knew it. How did she know? When the bad pony has already been punished. When they know what they did was wrong, truly do, and want forgiveness. Or if they're already beaten to the point they can't fight back. At that point, hurting them stops having a point and starts being cruel. Revenge has its place, but when they've already repented, when they've already been punished, when they're already beaten, wanting to make them hurt isn't punishment. It's hatred. Correct! Next question, said the jewel-eyed pony. Let's say a mare enslaved a group of peaceful beings to make a potion for her, and then kidnaps your friend to force you to be her slave. She does all sorts of horrible things to you and your friends, seeming to be an utter monster. But then, you discover she's essentially addicted to the potion, and has corrupted her. She breaks the habit and has true remorse for what she's done. Does this person deserve forgiveness? She doesn't, Twilight said, not even having to think about it. Forgiveness is never deserved. It's something that has to be given. She can only be forgiven if you give it, and she accepts it. Would you give it? Yes. The human gave her a smile. See, we told you already knew them. Thank you, Twilight. Twilight turned to see a pink mare with a sunglasses cutie mark. Again, that uncanny feeling of deja vu. For what? That answer helped someone quite close to me. Thank you for that. Twilight nodded slowly. Okay, I think I understand. Oh, was I staring at you? If so, I'm sorry. I just swear I've seen statues of you somewhere. The mare blushed, then hugged Twilight. Thanks again, Twilight. Twilight blinked, but returned the hug. You're welcome. If she'd help someone, why should she be worried about who it was? Sheedy smiled as she broke the hug. You're a good mare, Twilight. I know everything is going to work out. My name is Megan, by the way, the human said, kneeling next to Twilight. I hope we'll see each other again. So, should we have a party to celebrate? The blonde Pegasus asked. No, sorry, surprise, the gem-eyed pony said. I'm afraid Twilight must be on her way, isn't that right? Twilight nodded slowly, knowing she had somewhere important to be, turning and walking down a path. She looked back to see the ponies, Baby Dragon, and Megan all waving. She waved back. She turned back to the path, wondering where it would take her. And so, Twilight continued her journey. My name was once Twilight Tragedy, and once Twilight Sparkle. I remember losing to myself, and defeating myself, and I'd found myself in a weird place. The sky was a purple, swirling vortex, with a twinkle of stars barely visible. The ground and surroundings were made up of stacks of sedimentary rocks like piles of used-up bars of soap. While the sky was relatively illuminated, the ground was darkened in shadow, even though I wasn't. Books and photographs were scattered everywhere. The pictures were of ponies from Minty's, my Neverworld, both as mares and fillies. The books were evenly stacked in some places, others were thrown about haphazardly. I recognized some of the titles, but not all of them. The books were from every age, region, and era imaginable, and in every language, all in relatively good condition. I skimmed a few of them. None of the books seemed to be supernatural in and of themselves. They just contained knowledge, though just knowledge wasn't in my vocabulary. Welcome to In Between the Lines, Twilight Sparkle. I looked up to see a 5-pointed yellow star with the face of a little girl. It wasn't Discord in disguise. I searched Minty's memories. You're Twinkle Wish. The little star nodded. I'm happy to see at least one pony somewhere remembers me. It was the nature of the world I was born in to grant the wishes of the ponies. But reality became conflicted as ponies' hearts wished for opposing things. As it began to crack and crumble along the edges, the alicorns and the draconiqui attempted to patch the damage. I was created to act as a regulator, granting the wishes in ponies' hearts only one night a year, during the Winter Wishes Festival, to give reality time to adjust and heal. The star looked down sadly, and floated closer to the ground as she dimmed. But I was too little too late, and I was the first thing to give out when the world died. Twinkle Wish, it wasn't your fault. You did the best job you could. I comforted the star like she was an old friend. She was. And if that wasn't enough, then there was nothing you could have done differently. My only regret is that Minty, couldn't be on the adventure Pinkie Pie had to get you back from Whimsy Weatherby. The closest thing the fillies of that world ever got to a real adventure. I couldn't stop from asking the star. Twinkle Wish, you know every wish that was ever granted in the Lost Age. Did any of Pinkie Pie's friends wish for Minty to not be a part of the group on account of her clumsiness? No, there were safety measures in place to prevent hurtful or mean-spirited wishes, and even if there weren't, none of them ever made that wish, I'm sure of it. I felt relief. But why are you here, Twinkle Wish? Why am I here? Where is here? Due to the unique circumstances of my creation, I couldn't become a shadow of existence or reappear in the new world, so I was tasked with providing a light of existence for the knowledge and memories of this place. And this place is? Between the Lines, Twinkle Wish answered. A borderland between what is and isn't. Not quite part of Equilibrium, the heart of creation. Not yet. Why not yet? Because this place is just in its fetal stage. I'm the groundskeeper of this place, not the master. I have all my memories, as Clover, as Twilight the First, as Minty, as Twilight Tragedy, and Twilight the Unicorns and the End Cycles, and Nightmare Eclipse. How is that possible? Why am I not going insane? Because you're no longer a pony, not anymore. You're becoming an idea, a concept, a force, like the alicorns. When Nightmare Paradox is undone, all her paradoxes were undone with her, yet her actions couldn't be simply erased. So what's going to happen? I don't know. You'll either grow into a true concept, or you won't. Am I an alicorn, still, after my paradox self was hit by the elements? You're no longer a nightmare. What you are now is still in flux. As a nightmare, you are a powerful yet incomplete being. Only through continuing on will you ever know closure. Twinkle-wish, that's enough. I gasped at who I saw floating above me, upright, bipedal, with a book tucked underneath one foreleg. Twinkle-wish, please stand aside. Remember, you promised you wouldn't interfere. Good luck, Twilight. Minty. The little star floated away into the distance. She had a lilac hide. Her mane was white with pastel pale streaks of blue and pink. Blue eyes gazed intently at me, their emotions hidden. Her cutie mark was a blue parcel with a pink string. Razaru, I gasped. You're alive? What did that word even mean here? You're here. You're okay. She floated down and I hugged her. But what happened? I barely know myself, Razaru answered. I remember writing the last pages to our world's history. That was my last living memory. Right after that, I don't know if I was taken, if I died, or was erased and recreated. Regardless, the alicorns came to me, Twilight, Aramo, and Epatissa. With their help, I learned. I understood. The bonds between ponies I had dedicated my life to learning about, to recording, to memorizing, the unique joys of their lives. I wanted to know more. I was told what I could become, and what I could do. No, what they'd give me the right to do if I continued to grow. What right is that? Right to change worlds for the better. To heal, restore, give hope. Give stories of happy endings ours was denied. If I could but reach that final star. I was growing, Minty. I was becoming. I was awakened to the magic of friendship. And I've been growing inch by inch across forever. As I helped Urima with his books and Epatissa with the prayers mortal sent to the alicorns. Then they told me there was a contradiction. Was that harshness in Razaru's voice? I was beginning to feel uncomfortable. Razaru, tell me what's wrong. She broke the hug and floated back. Minty, there can be only one concept of magic. What? You and I are both on the brink of surpassing ourselves and becoming part of the foundation of the world, but there cannot be two gods of the same thing in the same universe. That's when I noticed she had markings I didn't remember, streams of sparkle on her back and forehead. Looking back at myself, I saw the same type of markings on my legs and back. Where had those come from? Can't we just share? Look, Razaru, I'm not a thief. If you want to be a concept so badly, you can have it. I'm more than happy to just go home. Razaru shook her head. You can't share a heart transplant, to put it in remotely comprehensible terms. Like I said, please, if you worked so hard for this, then I want it for you. You think I wouldn't just accept that if I could? Now that your evolution started, you'll continue to grow and mature whether you want to or not. Two trees can't decide to just give soil to the other. One of two flowers in a vase can't choose to simply give it all to the other flower. And Twilight, you're growing much faster than me. Left unchecked, you'll overtake me, and my door will shut. But the alicorns wanted to give us both a fair chance. An aura of magic flared around Razaru. She held up the book the way Starlight and her friends did, as though her hooves had invisible digits at the end. Razaru's book. It was shaped and designed very much like my old reference guide to the Element of Harmony, except those details seemed vague, fleeting, and inaccurate. Looking at her book felt like gazing at a mountain while my nose was pressed against the mountainside. Distinguishing all the details was impossible. I tried to make out its title and author, but failed. This book is nothing less than the ultimate magical weapon, Minty. All the experiences, memories, and knowledge of our forgotten world are contained within these pages. This book places me on almost equal footing with an alicorn. With it, I will surpass you. Razaru, please! We are friends! There has to be another way! I'm sorry, Minty, I've looked so hard, and there isn't. And I've worked too long, endured too much, to have my dreams snatched by you stumbling across the finish line first, you klutz! Wind flared up around Razaru, causing the nearby book stacks to topple over. I, Razaru, was the first pony to be reborn, first to cross over from the second age of cards and TVs, into the living, breathing paradise that was the lost third age. Now, I'm the last remaining soul of that world. All the rest have either been altered or returned to fauna luster. Whatever the outcome of this road, Minty, I've already accepted it. So you remember your former self. The pony you used to be before you were recreated, Razaru supplied. I nodded. It was as fitting a term as any. Yes, Clover, I do. But any more reminiscing on our past selves, our old identities, would be as pointless as chickens trying to recall what it was like to be eggs. Only the here and now matters. For what it's worth, you'll always be my friend. I'm sorry, Minty. Goodbye. Razaru opened the book, holding its pages out towards me as though she were inviting me to read them. Memory Whimsy Weatherpea. Galestorm! A howling wind exploded from the pages at the same time as a ghostly image of a female dragon flickered. Failsafe spell! My horn flashed, and the wind continued to knock me around, bruising and battering me. You relied too much on that spell fighting your nightmare self, Minty. My memory magic replays events, and operates on a completely different arcane system from your own. I forced several pillars of the rocky ground up around me to create a windbreak. Memory Discord. Teleportation Jammer. I jumped over the windbreak, using my telekinesis to hold myself, grabbing Razaru's book telekinetically at the same time, ripped it away from her hose, and levitated it over to myself. There! No more book, no more fighting! Razaru said flatly. Memory Thistle Whistle. Pow. Pow? Ah! The book opened in its own, and the image of a self-sacrificing Pegasus smashed me hard in the face before the book floated back to Razaru of its own accord. You won't get such a cheap, quick win. Memory Spike the First. Inferno! A storm of flames came down on me, the rocks I myself had summoned up creating a perfect open oven to burn me alive. The entire landscape was flooded by near-burning steam pouring out from the outcropping a moment later. Divine Storm! I, Half-Light Noon, flew out of the hole. Thanks for all the water vapor. Memory Windigo. Frozen World! The hot fog turned to a freezing snowstorm, the ground frozen solid. My wings were covered in frost and began suffering frostbite in seconds as I crashed into the ground. My frozen wings vanished, and little me, Half-Light Dawn, slammed my hooves into the ground, creating a magnitude 9 earthquake that shattered the layer of ice that had formed. Pillars of earth rise up as Razaru floats around quickly to avoid being smacked. It gave me enough time as Twilight Sparkle to release fire constructs at the Wendigos in every direction, negating themselves and the snowstorm into nothing. And now that we have water, Razaru said. Oh no, I whispered, my eyes pinpricks. Memory, look before you. Telekinesis slammed her mouth shut, so she just thought the rest. Sleep. Lightning storm! Black metal rods were thrown up in the air at high speed. Razaru barely needed to dodge them. Then she realized she hadn't been the target. Lightning rods! They had completely negated her attack. Fight back, Minty! You're not going to get anywhere just trying to disable me. I'm trying to kill you! Not over something this convoluted. Don't tell me you're feeling nostalgia now. Once you start fighting, the reasons stop mattering. It's live or die! Razaru teleported. I kicked her as she appeared behind me, only for her to explode into a massive paper pages that folded into daggers, flying at me. I stopped them with a spherical shield spell. That was when the real Razaru appeared behind me, her book now the size of a coffee table, and swung at the bearer like a baseball bat, sending me flying. I closed her eyes and used a flash bomb spell as Razaru came above me, her book now several times bigger than she was. That stopped her attack, and Razaru used her book to shield herself instead, the book remaining where she wanted it even after she let go. I ended the barrier and used my telekinesis inside the sphere to lessen the impact, so I landed safely. Razaru, this is pointless. We just keep canceling each other out. Even if I went on the offensive, I'd bet you're as prepared to negate my magic as I've been. I blinked. I said, I really am still thinking like a mortal pony. We're both about to become the concept of magic. We're both on the brink, just one more drop in the glass to overflow. But Algorn of Magic wouldn't merely have authority over all magic, nor command all magic. She'd be all magic. We're two oceans trying to drown each other. This is pointless, Razaru. So continue if you want. I'm done. And I turned my back on her. Fight me! No, I'm warning you, Minty. Fights to the death don't have warnings, Razaru. I'll do it, Minty. I don't want to win the coward's way, but if you're just going to stand there... I did nothing. In the corner of my eye, I saw the book limply fall from Razaru's hooves and hit the rocks. She floated down to the ground and fell to her back knees. I finally understand. I turned around. Razaru? A fair chance. Both of us equal in ability and wisdom, except for one small detail. All you needed to do was take the offensive for just a good long while, put your all into it. Fauna Lesser said she'd take me. Razaru sat on her flanks. She looked up at the sky, smiling, her eyes misting up. So realizing the fight was pointless, I whispered, was the hurdle where I failed. But if you failed too, but you didn't. You're better than me, Minty. You are the best. I smiled kindly at my old friend. Truth be told, I'm more confused that Star Swirl the Bearded, or Mimic, or Clover the Clever aren't magic. Knowledge isn't everything. Close, but not quite. Heart counts too, and in that way, even Mimic fell short. So did I, in the end. Don't say that, Razaru, please. Perhaps, to desire power, that's proof enough one is not worthy of it, and only one who does not desire power can be trusted to not be corrupted by it. That's the one answer my book doesn't contain. I hugged and nuzzled her. It felt so right just to hold her. Please, no more talking. Just for a little bit. Just for a little bit. Minty, you've held this hug for 2 years now. Oh, okay, so what's next for me? Next, you become everything and everywhere that mana flows. Your soul becomes a law of nature. I think I'll be taking Twinkle Wish with me. I've gotten kind of fond of her. You don't need to go anywhere, I whispered in her ear. Thank you, but I have infinity to explore and learn from. I need time away from these books and alicorns. Maybe I'll find my ultimate truth somewhere else. We finally broke the hug. It felt a bit like letting go of one of my own legs. Will I see you again? In the span of forever? I'd say certainly. But beware this truth, Twilight Sparkle. Godhood carries with it a horrible price. Only accept that dreaded mantle if you are willing to give up everything. You are not like your soon-to-be brothers and sisters. You've experienced your mortal life first. There will never be any going back to being a simple, happy mortal. I was prepared for and wanted that. You have to decide if you are. I shuddered. And Twilight, if you do accept godhood, you will find a bitter enemy awaiting you at the dawn of time. Then I simply will never go to the dawn of time, I shrugged. Not unless I'm ordered to by one of the Alicorn elders. Raspberry smiled sadly, the way adults smile at fool's logic. Well, in all fairness, you almost certainly won't be ordered to go there. You'll be free to delay and put it off for as long as it pleases you. But, in the same way a caterpillar is eventually compelled to cocoon itself, you'll eventually be compelled to take a trip to the dawn of time, because your heart will never let you do otherwise. And when you do, your most painful enemy will be waiting for you. Who? My book doesn't say who, only that the enemy will be unreasonable, and it'll break your heart to fight them. But you won't be able to just walk away to win, like with me. So please, fight with your all. Please, keep this with you to remember me by. Please. This is your journal? It's all yours. I spent the last forever updating it a little. I hope you or some pony else find it enlightening. And Twilight, please, give every pony you can their happy ending. I promise. Thank you, Twilight, and goodbye. She kisses me on the muzzle. Raspberry became several thousand paper cranes that flew into the sky. A small yellow star floated close behind. Raspberry's voice spoke. Congratulations, Clover. You finally surpassed your big sister. I gasped. Sister? It dawned on me. Metallark, wait! I cried out as the entire sky, then everything else, turned white.
Soul that stands before the edge of eternity, grain of sand who will become a beach, new sister to be. You faced the past, present, future, and their parallels, and have been judged worthy. Now comes the final threshold.
I found myself in a calm place. My mind threatened to crack trying to process it. Infinite was the order of the day instead of a theoretical impossibility. The circumference of the circular pillars was infinite, her height was infinite, the pattern on the floor showing every universe in existence, like pieces of one grand mosaic, was infinite. My instincts told me that if we hadn't become one, Minty, Clover, Twilight the Unicorn, Twilight the First, and Nightmare Paradox, part of me wondered if this was what being a germ felt like. An alicorn stallion stood in front of me, to my side, above me. Spatial relations were getting harder to define. This was a domain of ideas. He wore armor that was a contrasting set of black and white. His key mark was a set of balance scales. He had a red eye and a blue eye. His coat was golden, and he had a beard. His mane fluttered in an invisible breeze. I didn't need to ask who he was. Judicium, terror of the judgment. When I was Nightmare Paradox, I had learned a lot about my fellow alicorns. I found myself quivering. It wasn't a concept yet. I felt like a speck of dust in comparison. You may pass, the alicorn stallion said and stepped away. I saw another alicorn near the center. Devling's key mark, white mane, blue coat. Abatissa. She looked toward me and bowed, then bowed to another and walked through a gateway. I was now alone with her. Step forward. Her will be done. I was the size of a ladybug compared to her. Huh? Now I was the size of a newborn filly compared to her, and Celestia a toddler. Yet, no matter how small I measured beside her, I didn't feel diminished in any way. Rather, I felt taller than I ever have. She was white, like hope, like joy. To look at her was to look at a window into a whole reality and to herself. When her wings opened, they stretched from one end of her domain to the other, forever. Her horn was circled by a set of tiny horns that reminded me of a crown. She was wonderful. She was simply beautiful. The light that shined from her wasn't cold or indifferent. There was no way to describe it other than life. Wicked and cruel were not even a part of her being. The spirit world was supposed to be the land of the dead, but there was nothing dead about her. Her cutie mark was an ever-changing nebula. Oh, I didn't mean to cry, but just being so near her. Welcome home, my little pony. She was right. I was home. I didn't know why, but every fiber in my soul told me I'd returned here, to her. But my voice failed me. Say my name. Fauna Lester. Even seeing the heart of all life, you desire to know more. Good. Ask the question on your mind. If you're a source of all souls, if you're where we all come from, where all they are, I don't see any coming from your, I blushed. All this reality is me. All you see is me. Everything here is me. All this existence is me. From me, all living souls come, and from there, I watch my children grow. That's when a tiny light flickered into being next to me, No name yet, no self-image, no knowledge, no memories, no ego. Only a tiny new yes in the universe. It floated close to me. I looked upon Lester. She nodded with a smile. I touched it. I giggled. A sense of pure, absolute innocence washed over me. Then, on a gentle breeze, it flew out. A flicker of fear came from the tiny light as it was swept out into the giant universe.
Speak your next question.
Why have them leave at all? Why not just keep them? Have them flow through you and the stallion? Why have the middle pony called life where they can be hurt and led astray? Why?
A perfectly logical and rational question. I ask you, would a world where every pony was being fed from my view bags and had a live wire connected directly to their pleasure center be happiness? Their brains say it is so. So is it so?
No, not at all. It's alive, but it's not living.
And if you had flowers that stayed seeds forever, so you would never have to see them wither after they bloomed, would that be love?
No.
If you lived in a world where all your decisions brought about maximum satisfaction, regardless of what choice you make, or could make, or would make, where any hurt was just on the road to more maximum satisfaction, everything micromanaged and tailor-made down to the last speck of dust for more maximum satisfaction.
I understand! I remembered what Nightmare Paradox had planned. Then another thought occurred to me. Nightmare Paradox, she refused to play by the rules at all, and broke and rewrote them how I wanted. But with Razaru, I was put into a test where I had to defy the arbitrary rules to pass. But my instincts tell me there was another reason. Was there?
The test for you both was very real. You've been scared stiff of being assertive ever since you learned of what you were responsible for at Nightmare Paradox. You needed to learn that you still need to put your hoof down at times.
I must say, that was very cunning of you. Well plotted.
To call it a plot is no more correct than it is a plot to tell family that you love them. A true mother does not move her children like chess pieces. I did not pull invisible strings to direct your hearts or actions.
Okay, I'll take your word for it, great mother.
Ask. There is nothing you could say to me I will not understand. Nothing that would make me hate you.
Why? Why did Nightmare Paradox? Why did I get away with this for so long? Why didn't you stop me? Why did so many suffer? Was it just some convoluted way to get me here and make me the Alicorn of magic?
It pained me and my husband to watch the suffering you unleashed. Your ascension was not worth so many lives to my husband and I, especially when, as you've seen, we already had a willing candidate on the verge of reaching the same goal. You had grown too powerful for our children to stop.
I bowed my head. With all due respect, I was but one nightmare. Celestia and Luna had been turned to statues, but imagine you had at least 10 other children you could have called upon. If they'd all ganged up on me at once.
Mother of all Alicorns lifted an eyebrow slightly. One nightmare, you say? And what of Nightmare Banneret, Nightmare Mare, Nightmare Manacle, Nightmare all the rest? I assure you, daughter, had your nightmare self caught wind that a force of Alicorns was after you, you'd not have stopped with just 5 nightmare friends.
My jaw snapped shut as I tried to envision that war. Alicorns versus nightmares. Just how many ponies would I have corrupted into eldritch abominations? Torpedoes is a nightmare. Apple pie is a nightmare. My parents is nightmares.
What's more, we could not risk you devouring even one of our children, not only because they are our children, but because your power would have increased exponentially. As for why we did not interfere, I ask you this. If you, without a shrinking spell, attempted to teleport inside of another pony, what would become of them?
I shuddered. They'd be torn apart from the inside out. They'd die.
Correct. Myself, my husband, Havoc, and Entropy entering the mortal universe would trigger this effect. Well, we can use avatars. Conjured bodies meant to contain an acceptable fraction of our power. While we could have used avatars, we could not risk consuming one of them, as Discordance had done with his father's.
I had grown that powerful, I said, feeling dazed.
You were at the point where only you could have vanquished yourself. The only situation where we would have emerged to face Paradox directly is when the collateral damage of our advent was outweighed by the threat you posed.
And if not just a timeline, but everything.
Correct. Do not think we would have allowed things to occur this way if there was a choice. We helped in what ways we could, Twilight, from afar, and alongside you and from within. I have always had my power offered to aid mortals in their time of need, but not if their hearts are shut to me. They must choose to reach out and take my hoof, as you did. You may not have been able to see or hear them, but my children Venus, Perellus, and Penicillus were with you.
I couldn't help blushing. Thank you. So what happens next?
Mother!
The Alicorn mare from before, Abatissa, flew down towards her mother.
Yes, Abatissa?
Please, let me do my duty as Terror of the High Priestess. She is not a concept yet. Please let me see for you. Please, she prayed.
If that is what you wish, you may perform your duty, Abatissa.
Thank you, Mother. She bowed and kissed her mother's hooves. It wasn't groveling. It was true praise. Abatissa turned gracefully towards me and spoke. First, I ask you what your truth will be when you become magic. Then, I'll share with you the final price of being reborn through Mother and becoming my sister. Finally, if you truly will accept that price of your own free will. She flared out her wings and her entire body glowed. Now, little pony, think of every life that suffers unfairly and cruelly due to the whims of others. The rules say they must suffer because it was from the choices of others. What shall you do when you are magic? I'll crush any rule that stands in my... No, rules, like them or not, everyone needs them. But what about rules that just aren't fair? No, rules that are a direct cheat. Rules that cheat aren't rules at all. And something that isn't a rule has no right to hold me back. And if I say a rule of magic is a cheat and has to go, then it is and it will. But I'd better think carefully about each one first. Reckless action and inaction are equally destructive. And that choice cements your right to become the concept of magic. Just remember, a concept must be decisive, as mortals trust the natural world to be. A short stone pillar appeared underneath the alicorn. Twilight Sparkle, now that you've been cleansed of the sickness of your nightmare, the elements have completed the balance within you. This has left your spirit in a nascent stage. We are concepts who had to learn to appreciate the value of mortals. You are a mortal who must learn to appreciate the value of concepts. Normally, this would not happen until your body was destroyed, or when the trumpet is sounded, but you are a special case. You are also the only mortal to become a major arcana, which was supposed to be impossible, as the minor arcana was, until just now, reserved for such mortals. This has caused your spirit to begin to grow out of control. Razaru became what she was through sheer determination and hard work. You've become what you are by fusing 4 mortal ponies with a nightmare billions of years old. Is it too late? I had no idea this would happen when I decided to bend the rules of space and time to make 6 sets of elements of harmony appear at once to defeat a nightmare of me from outside the time-space continuum who would beat herself up on other nightmares. And Twilight the Unicorn, Clover, Minty, Twilight the First, joined with a depowered nightmare paradox because why, Twilight Sparkle? Because using all the elements together at once, it was like a parasite to a flame. 2 ponies can't exist in the same time and place. Twilight the Unicorn and Nightmare Paradox were the same pony. Me. I think we were all naturally drawn to her. She existed, yet I wouldn't become her. If they had stayed separated after derailing the Paradox's scheme, it would have continued to damage time. And Minty, Twilight the First, and Clover, the other parts of your existence? Other versions of them continue to exist, right? They have not and will not vanish from history. Minty Pie still exists, for example, if you're curious. And the souls of Twilight the First, Minty, and Clover still reside inside my father. There is no law of conservation of souls. How do you know all this so fast? Looked it up on my alicorn pad. Kidding, I'm the concept of prayer, and your friends, including Minty Pie, are praying for you very dearly. After 2 years? Time doesn't exist the same way in the spiritual realm. Moving on, why did the other 3 aspects of you join as well? We each... I breathed in deep, and slowly breathed out. Because we all felt something absolutely wonderful was going to happen. We were all scared inside, but we all wanted to be a part of it. But you didn't know that something wonderful would be becoming the only mortal in all time and space to become part of the major arcana. Yes. Alright. Once you make this decision, Twilight Sparkle's actions and others' memories of her won't vanish, but your new self shall be, and will have always been, the alicorn of the Magician Tarot. But if we've never met before now, the glow faded from Altis's body in irritation. Ugh, you're still thinking of the universe like one long hallway. Jeez. There's an entire world around you and you're thinking like a stick pony. Stop being stubborn and narrow-minded. This is the important bit. The finite cannot become infinite. That is impossible. To become an alicorn, you must let go of all you are. For the alicorn to be born, Twilight Sparkle must be purified of mortal origins and mortal nature. Twilight Sparkle must die. Do you accept this fate? What happens if I don't? Your soul explodes. Kidding. What does happen? You just go home. And? Ponies you'll never meet or know of in life or death, who have their unhappy endings, keep their unhappy endings. Over the course of infinity, another pony might come along to become magic and happy endings instead, but they won't be magic or happy endings as you've known them. And these things will happen because I go home? No, they've already happened, but you, as magic, can let them travel new roads they weren't able to before. Can you give me more details? I can, but I won't. Deep down, what you want most is to go home and make those close to you happy. Not strangers, but those you fought alongside, bled alongside, and only recently remembered how to care for. Are there any other downsides to becoming an alicorn? Above everything else, to become a true alicorn, you must sacrifice your eternal rest. Instead, you'll take on an eternal burden. That is the true price of what you seek. You will know respites, but eternal rest will be denied you for all existence. The road will never end. You're right. That is what I want most. But so be it. No eternal rest? What of it? I wouldn't have gotten any of that anyway, had I continued on as Twilight Tragedy or as Nightmare Paradox. I've committed so many sins as them both. And if I can have the power to bring ponies out of the darkness instead of just pushing ponies into it, how can I just walk away from that? That means in the afterlife, your friends and your mother and father will be without you, forever, and you will be without them. If I can use that kind of power to help even one pony, or 1,000, that's the pony I want to be. And I can never rest with them if I try to away from that. That's just it. This isn't a job you can just retire from after you've eased your conscience. This'll be you. I sighed, rubbing my head. Abatista, what did you mean when you said purified of mortal origins and mortal nature? It scares you? Good! Sister, may I explain this part? Asked a voice. I recognized it. After all, I am the most qualified. As you wish, little sister. I turned to see a blue alicorn with violet barding similar to Luna's, the stars in it twinkling like the stars in the sky. Her mane and tail were silvery, translucent, flowing energy. It reminded me of an invisibility spell in action. Her key mark was a magic wand with a trail of magic behind it. My jaw dropped. Trixie? The one and only. Though actually, it's Princess Anasi Mohina Waya, Queen of Wands, concept of theater, drama, and storytelling. And I took a bite out of Morningstar's concept of trickery. She wiggled her eyebrows at me. And the only member of the Minor Arcana to ever be partnered with a Draconequus. I stiffened a little, thinking of Discord wanting to make me his queen. Partnered? Nancy rolled her eyes. Partnered as in work partner, Twilight. Oh, but feel free to call me Trixie. It's rather nostalgic. I hugged her. I didn't care if she was an alicorn or a unicorn. I had the memories of the Twilight who had become this Trixie's friend in her cycle, only for Paradox to tear it all away. She hugged me back.